Egos are always reducing other people's life force energy, their chi, their creativity, their good energy, their good mood, their good vibration, their good emotion. And hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Going Dotty. I'm Trace Egan, and in today's video
we look at how ego affects us within space.
So let's crack into it. One of the ways that this affects us is when an ego is micromanaging and controlling a situation, they literally zap all of the movement of flow from a space. When an ego is controlling, they are wearing the masculine element in that moment. When we're looking at energy, we look at the feminine flow and movement and the masculine energy of construct and structure. And when we have these two elements together, they come together in one, and we have a rich core experience. And by holding the masculine structure, by controlling that narrative that it allows to be playing out in the moment, other people in that moment, they feel this. You know, you can feel this in a grid when you're in a situation when it's multiple other people. You mightn't be the victim or the pawn at the other side of the gaze of an ego, but we can still see this happening when there's power dynamics, power structures. We still feel it in our space, because when we are with other people in a shared space, we are all in a collective space, and then we're operating within our own personal space as best we can. If we don't have good boundaries, if we don't have a solid membrane of knowing this is where I end and somebody else begins, if we can't run that interactive space with other people very well, things can get caught up in our system. If we don't filter and if we don't process what has gone on, things get stuck. Those things are then stuck in the filter for the next time we're having an experience. So all of these experiences or these moments that play out in time and in our reality and that which we call life, if we're not engaging within our headspace, understanding what's going on, understanding why that happened, and I would certainly suggest that information is power and it is key to all of this. This stuff isn't going to invisibly go away just because you don't like it or because you wanted to. We really have to become conscious within the self of what's going on in order to be able to defeat, I suppose, the consciousness around us that is taking our breath away and not allowing us to be complete within ourselves. If we want to be solid and sovereign on our own 2 feet, we have to be sovereign and solid on our own 2 feet. It's not going to come to us from other people. An ego isn't going to give it back to us. And somebody in their own wholeness isn't going to fulfill that for us either, because that would just be us operating in an egotistical mentality, waiting for the external to give it to us. So that's why this personal development, the self-awareness, the psyche, the knowledge of the self, and facing our truths, looking at our darkness, facing the shadow self. Egos are always reducing other people's life force energy, their chi, their creativity, their good energy, their good mood, their good vibration, their good emotion. And therefore, when we allow ourselves to flow in a comfortable way, in trust and understanding with somebody who is in an egocentric state of consciousness, that can be really detrimental to us down the road. It feels nice in the moment, so we go with it, but then we find ourselves entangled up in this thread of life, this weave of the story of creation with us and this other person, and then we find ourselves absolutely having to get out of these relationships and dynamics. And it's very difficult to do that when we don't have a frame of reference, when we don't have validation for what is actually going on around us. And I think it's quite understandable when we're talking about these psychological situations that we have with other people. This is where energy and energetics explains a layer of life, or offers as a container a way of explaining a layer of life that we experience when we're in dynamic with egos and with narcissists. Narcissists very much fulfill so much of the criteria of the ego. The narcissist is that in the external, which the ego is in the internal of a being. So there's an awful lot of overlap, but we will go into the narcissism and the narcissist in detail in the narcissism series when it comes up. when the ego sees us as being an aspect of them, as a part of them and their life and their world, the narrative that they attach to the aspect of self that they see on us halts and hinders our ability to be able to move naturally within our own life and world. Everything is so prescripted, everything is so predefined that we are not really allowed to put even a toe out of line without receiving this vicious, malicious response from the ego. Because the more confident that an ego is in its power role and in its power position, the more diminished our life and our light is. We are not being our authentic being. We are not able to operate in a natural form. And this is an extremely uncomfortable experience to be in. This can happen to us mentally with regards to our knowledge, the data, the facts that's going on. Well, you know, if somebody has been trained, shall we say, in egotistical dynamics, whether that's because of their parenting, whether that's because of their social circle when they were growing up, maybe that's because of their office and their working environment. There's so many people who have experienced so many negative, insidious things happening within their form and within their being energetically as we have been interfacing with other people. And there'll be secondary consequences for that. You might have people who are overly sensitive to things because they've been traumatized. You might have people who are paranoid because they're not grounded in a true reality. They've always been reacting and responding in this false illusionary nature of the ego of other people. There can be mental health problems. There can be emotional regulation, you know, not being able to forge and create healthy emotional dynamics and relationships with other people. And again, I suppose fundamentally it all comes back to trauma. Egos traumatize other people. Egos traumatize people's experience of life, the natural, organic movement and current of human relationships, dynamics, working together, making things happen, bringing things into fruition, being able to trust somebody, being able to talk with somebody, being able to, know that somebody is going to be there for you. And because egos are very manipulative, they can be very, very abusive, and it all happens in subtle ways. It's very toxic, and the ego itself isn't going to validate or, acknowledge that it is acting in this way. So if you are being hampered by an ego, it's a very difficult position to be in, because not only do you feel invisible, but the things that are occurring to you, that you feel, that you know that are happening, but you can't maybe put language to it because you don't have a frame of reference for it, that will be invalidated as well. If we don't go to the right place for support and acknowledgement, then the effects of that can also be very detrimental on our sense of self, on our mental health, on our emotional self, because we are this integrated system. It's not just about the physical body. It's not just about the mental body. It's not just about your emotional form and nature. All of these things correlating with each other. If you're, mentally stressed, that's going to manifest and physicalize in your physical body. If you're in great emotional distress, that is also going to affect your mental self and your physical self. We are one unit. There's very little disconnect from one part of ourselves to the other, yet at the same time we can look at and we can deal with the physical, mental and emotional self as distinct elements and areas of self. So much of an ego's interaction is this program of response. Egos are premeditative, as we have mentioned ad nauseum at this stage. They really need to control what's going on, and because they are not able to be lucid in the moment themselves, because they are not quick enough to be able to react to important, significant events as they are occurring, the ego just responds in its pre-programmed module. It returns to the simplest base element that it can come back to and bounces on from there again. So the ego's attempt to mould and play with our lucidity and uphold the reality of what's going on comes back around and affects us, because we are not living in a truthful moment. We're operating within a false reality, and we have very little capacity to voice our dissent towards this either. We're caught up in something that we have no true role in. It has no true value for us, and we are being controlled by other people who are dragging us through their version of reality, which in turn halts and stops us from being able to engage in authentic reality truly. That's it on today's video. Please let me know how you found this today. Please comment below. Please like the video if it has been useful to you, because that's good biofeedback. And please support the channel by subscribing. Thanks so much for your time, and I hope to see you guys again. Look after yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon.